could be a whole new direction for this team. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what maps they're prioritizing. We're about to learn with the rest of the world here. So I think that's fair enough.
People probably underestimate how dominant they were. I'm sure statistically they probably have all the records. I don't think they'll ever be beaten, quite frankly.
NIP were just an amazingly fun team to watch.
It's going to be really interesting in the beginning. It's a new lineup, a lot of the younger players, less experienced players than I'm used to working with in the past.
Well, now we have to see what this new NIP roster without any of the legends on it, what they're going to be capable of. Whenever you got to cast NIP back in the day, it felt like you'd won the lottery because you're always going to get just one of the very best games.
Almost impossibly good. I mean, it legitimately is the case that when they would win those 87 maps in a row, and what people forget is that was just like the first, I think, 6 months or something.
Because on every level, NIP could dominate, and they're similar to some of the teams that we have today, where there's just so much raw talent on the team.
It's kind of like Astralis when they were in their prime. Yes, someone could beat them, but that was actually the unlikely scenario. And in fact, you knew if they played that team in the next tournament, they'd just go and get revenge immediately and be right back on top.
And they had a bit of that hive mind Swedish element, the way that Fnatic had it in 2015, somewhere around there, right? It wasn't like there was a fixed strategy to it. It was just, oh, look, GetRight got 3 kills because he somehow managed to sneak all the way onto the opposite B site and then backstabbed everybody. And you could expect that every game. It was the meme where, oh, where's GetRight? Look behind you, because that's where he is. And 9 times out of 10, he was shooting you in the back. Forrest is Forrest. He could just do it all. He was a god. Freiburg, fearless. He had the trust of his teammates, the king of banana, coming up with the big plays, opening up bomb sites, taking over entire sections of the map. But what was great about that team was that you could always tell that it was like a brotherhood in that team.
In terms of how important NIP's era was, so I actually thought it really established CSGO as a game, because at the time it was considered an inferior game to CS Source and CS 1.6, and most people thought it was a joke. So I think actually to have some big legends from 1.6 come in, dominate the game immediately, therefore showing there's something to this game. There's a reason it's not just a different team winning every event. I think it actually legitimized the game, and then even though they were very, very dominant, they were only dominant for the first couple of years. So then finally, once the game had built its way up, then other people got their chance and we got to have more of an open scene.
They were such a special team, and they had that magic around them.
You almost can't overstate how dominant they were.
It's been a shift since Forrest left the team. Of course, he had a big presence.
Forrest leaving NIP is a big deal, not only for us, but for all the fans, the organization, everything. It's going to be strange seeing Forrest on a server, not without the NIP tag, right? But at the same time, he was on Fnatic for a long while before that, and to me, when he joined NIP, he was like, he's Fnatic Forrest.
I think the kind of gap that Forrest leaves behind is one thing. I think having a legendary player and one that was very, very good does for your team is, even if they're not actually as good as they used to be, in the minds of the people playing with them, they still see the flashes of it, and that will give you confidence. Obviously, you'll think, I'm playing with one of the best players and playing with a guy I looked up to before. And at this point in his career, Forrest can be a complementary player who also has big games and wins you matches. But if you're looking at those like key 1 and 2 big star players, I think those days are behind him at this point in time, and I don't think even he would say he's the best player in the world anymore. So he's in the right sort of team for him, where it can kind of be about personality and the good old times. And I think if you're NIP, you're looking for one of these younger guys, now maybe with that room created, to become the new Forrest.
Definitely. I think the major took harder on me than I wanted to realize at first. The major was a real blowout for me individually, and I got a lot of flack from it, from obviously for good reasons as well. And I've been just working hard to find back to the level that I know that I'm able to play at, and I just need to figure out how I can stabilize myself in my mind when it comes to playing those games, so it doesn't get better on me. Even though I've been playing for 15 years, it still gets to me sometimes. Yeah,
it's gonna feel empty without Forrest on the server, since he was the last member of the legendary NIP team from before.
But that's done now. Well, now we have to see what this new NIP roster without any of the legends on it, what they're going to be capable of. So there's a lot riding on that. It's going to be very fun to see this new roster at work and see if they can live up to that pedigree.
Of course, sad that Forrest left us, but I think he had his reasons, and I think I wish him the well too. I'm really excited for us NIP for the new year.
Bringing Nock into the team was, for me, was quite a clear choice. He has been an up-and-coming player for a few years in Sweden.
We decided to pick Nock up since he had so much raw talent. He has been playing with Plopsky before. He's gonna have good chemistry, and Plopsky said some good things about him. And of course, he's really talented, so that's the main reason we picked him up.
He's someone where, if you go back even a year and a half ago, the people who were playing in teams with him around that level in the Swedish scene basically didn't just say like, oh, he's going to be good. They were all saying like, this guy's definitely going to be really good. And in fact, like, he's better than some of the best players in Sweden now. I think he's the person where if they're going to become a good team, he'll be the guy who becomes one of the top players. And actually the idea of having a really good Swedish opera is pretty enticing because we haven't really had one from the Swedish scene.
I think that Nork replacing Forrest and going into a role of a secondary AWPer is quite a unique opportunity for him because he was doing the primary AWPing stuff in his old team. So this is going to be a bit of a teething period to see if he's going to be the main AWP over Twist or how things are going to work on out. I just think it's exciting to see him actually get to play against the caliber of tier 1 opponents and see if he actually has what it takes.
Because obviously they have none of the original members. I'm more interested to see what this team does now because actually they've got all this young talent in the squad.
Some of the players, if they've been around too long, it's kind of hard. Maybe they're in a bad habit. And it's really hard to change their habits.
The teams should fear us a bit now. I think we can do really good damage on our team, and we're all really motivated to go far.
I think with Threat joining as the coach, and obviously he was the coach of NIP in the past, first of all, if you wanted someone to try and figure out can any of these 5 do it, you'd want someone like Threat, who is one of the absolute best fundamental tactical and game leaders Sweden ever had.
What has been interesting for you developing this new NIP lineup?
I mean, the players now, they're way less experienced, of course, but still I think I can kind of make them into better players.
I think what Threat offers as a coach is very regimented, and he thinks about Counter-Strike a little bit differently. He's always coming up with these new ideas of how to approach certain situations. So if he can have any new takes on the current meta to go against the Astralises of the world or the Liquids who are always trying to keep that wheel fresh, then it's going to make NIP more explosive and more unpredictable, which is what you need to be in Counter-Strike. You don't want to be able to be read too easy, and if Threat can bring that, then that's a positive.
With the amount of skill that they've gotten, and crucially bringing back Threat as a coach, who I think is actually a very, very good coach, he has in theory got completely kind of fresh clay to mold there. So I could see him actually turning them in, if he figures out the right style, to like a much better team than they are now. Like maybe we could be talking about a team that's cracking top 6, top 7, which would be a step up from where they were most of last year.
So it's going to be a very new experience for me, but everyone seems just so hungry. So it's going to be really interesting in the beginning. It's a new lineup, a lot of the younger players.
I think the standout characteristic of NIP would actually just be skill. I think if you look at it, they've got basically all the best young talents with the exception of Brolan, who plays in Fnatic. They're actually all in NIP at the moment. Funnily enough, the two teams, NIP and Fnatic, kind of switched identities. It used to be NIP who held on to the great players that won them the championships in the past. That's kind of Fnatic's MO. Meanwhile, NIP now, it's all the young players. It's all people who haven't even been in NIP for a year, 2 years. They're not the original NIP. So I would say it's just the raw skill. They've actually got the potential.
This season, we're doing damage.
1-on-2, he won't expect this. That's an ace for Electro to keep NIP in the game.
I would describe my team as legendary. NIP name has been around for a very long time, and it has a lot of history, and it's a legendary name. Legendary.
Follow up here, Plopsky. Nice triple.
They can expect hunger and explosive game style.
Nock's gonna have to back off, and that's a good shot.
Down towards the ramp instead. He would have a good angle for it. Rez with yet another kill. He's fighting in the middle. Another headshot comes through.
The wildcard for us is probably gonna be Nock, I think.
He's just such a skilled player.
I think he's gonna turn the game around.
Just an M4 picked up on the ground. And an instant headshot from Nock. That's what they needed.
Twist. Underrated, and also he boosts out the players.
And Twist is very nervous. You can absolutely tell. Oh, he somehow gets it at the end. That's what he needed.
This season, we're the dark horse.
He does make the jump down. He snuck around. Oh, just scoping up behind him, and Twist is gone.
Our expectations for the team this upcoming season is that we want to make it to the top 4 and be consistently there.
Hey everybody, hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below and get on top of all the social that Blast are putting out there because they are on top of their game. But we will see you next time.